On Wednesday, August 20th, 1986, in Jackson, Mississippi, energy machine inventor Joseph Newman held a news conference to demonstrate his fan motor prototype and show the feasibility of an electromagnetic lifting and motion device for Earth and space travel. This event was attended by over 150 people from across the country and featured statements from Dr. Roger Hastings and Milton Everett. At the beginning of the news conference, Mr. Randy Thompson, assistant to the mayor, officially welcomed Joseph Newman to the city of Jackson and commended him for his continuing efforts to secure a patent for his energy machine. Mr. Thompson then turned over the microphone to Evan Soule.
My name is Evan Soule, and I handle public relations for Mr. Newman. I'd like to say preliminarily that in the back we have some press kits for those of you in the media. If you would be sure to get one before you leave. We also have in the press kits a release concerning today's events. We also ask for those of you who have TV cameras there that for those of you taking still photographs to please limit your photographing and realizing that there are cameras behind you. We'd appreciate that. The first thing I'd like to say is I'm sure everyone in this room is aware of the struggles that Mr. Newman has been through now for 7 years in his attempt to secure a patent from the Patent Office. One of the things that I think has to be tackled head-on is the fact that the patent officials continue to attempt to label Mr. Newman's invention as perpetual motion. This is an attempt on their part, which they consistently label as such, because it relieves them of the responsibility of having to make the effort and exert the mental energy to understand Mr. Newman's technical process. Moreover, it might be interesting to note for those of you who are not aware of it, that the very examiner who originally labeled Mr. Newman's device as, quote, smacking of perpetual motion, was later found to be technically incompetent in his duties as an electrical engineer by a federal district court in Texas. This man is unfortunately still employed at the Patent Office. One of the things that I wanted to add here today is that there are really two purposes for this news conference today. The first is to demonstrate to you a new electromagnetic propulsion system which will have revolutionary implications for Earth and space travel in the future. And Mr. Newman will be demonstrating that today, in addition to a demonstration concerning his fan technology relating to his energy machine. The second purpose of this news conference today is to urge the people of Mississippi to contact Senator Thad Cochran and ask that he immediately introduce a bill in the Senate to secure a patent by congressional action of the Senate. There are now 10 bills in the House. We are hoping to get our first bill in the Senate introduced by Senator Cochran. Congressman Wayne Doughty, who presented testimony at the recent Senate hearing on July the 30th in Washington, put it very well when he said, and I quote, "No one should have to endure the treatment Mr. Newman has undergone at the hands of the United States Patent and Trademark Office. Instead of promoting Mr. Newman's invention, the PTO has spent thousands of taxpayer dollars to thwart him. If the PTO denies this country the benefits of what could be a revolutionary energy device, then its obstinacy would, in my mind, be criminal." And I close quotes. Congressman Doughty also concludes, and I quote, "In my opinion, the Patent Office has failed, and it is up to Congress to take corrective action. I hope the Senate will support Mr. Newman and move to grant him a pioneering patent." Hopefully, Senator Cochran will act soon and introduce such a bill in the U.S. Senate. It is now my pleasure to turn this news conference over to Milton Everett with the Mississippi Bureau of Geology, who has been working and supporting Mr. Newman for a number of years. Mr. Everett.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for your interest. And I'm thanking you for your support of Joe Newman. I've known Joe for over 3 years now, and I've seen his inventions go from crude devices that he's put in his garage that you couldn't move to devices such as this, all of them showing far greater than 100% efficiency. Today, you will see a phenomenon which I feel sure will lead to safe space travel. Please support him. Please do what you can to get this Congress to support him. Thank you. Dr. Roger Hastings will now tell you more about the space phenomena.
Thank you. As you know, Joe has been a pioneer of what I would like to call hyper-efficient motors. And now he is, in the very recent past, come up with rather a different phenomena, one that I find very fascinating. I've been personally interested in magnetic suspension and magnetic levitation for a number of years. When I was a professor, I had students that had projects in which they created magnetically suspended objects using electromagnetism. I've personally tried to follow the literature and the developments in the field of magnetic levitation. Particularly the Japanese have been the pioneers in this area. In my own calculations, I concluded that, well, if you want to levitate something off of the Earth's magnetic field, this could be done by putting 1 billion amps of current through a coil of wire, and it would levitate. And 1 billion amps of current is a lot of current. It's something that man hasn't created as of yet, although 1 million amps can be generated in a superconducting wire. Over the past 5 years since I've known Joe, we've discussed this matter, and he has always expressed the opinion that this could be done and that it wouldn't require 1 billion amps of current, and that he may find the time someday to prove this to me. Well, a few weeks ago, he called and asked me if it would be significant if anything were lifted by any amount in the Earth's magnetic field. And I told him it would be tremendously significant. If you can lift something small, you can lift something big. So I came down this week and observed Mr. Newman's creation. It is not a coil of wire with 1 million amps passing through it. It's a different configuration. He's using straight wires, which are very fine. He is applying very high voltage to these wires, and he is creating a noticeable levitation. I had the opportunity to put some mathematics, to apply Maxwell's equations, at least do some preliminary calculations on why this was working or how to describe this. I found that Maxwell's equations did hold the answers. I must point out that Maxwell's equations do not tell you how to invent this machine, whereas Joseph Newman has applied his gyroscopic particle model, which I have found that Joe can use effectively to create new inventions. Maxwell's equations, however, in this case, it seems to me, do apply to the results of Joe Newman's creativity. So in looking at this, making some conservative estimates, I would think that a vehicle that were perhaps 5 miles in diameter could be levitated and propelled in the Earth's magnetic field, move up into orbit, perhaps go between planets and out into the cosmos. Maybe for interplanetary travel, one would want to think of a larger vehicle, maybe 1,000 miles in diameter. Also, in some brainstorming that we did, there were some thoughts as to how to make this vehicle even smaller. There's some indication that maybe even a vehicle as small as 1,000 feet in diameter, which may seem large to everybody, but really isn't that big, could be levitated in the Earth's magnetic field. I feel that what he has done is very significant, and that that development efforts could very well produce a magnetically levitated flying vehicle. With it would really be wonderful if we could get out of this habit of sitting on top of these huge firecrackers and blasting ourselves off into space. This would be something that would gently float off into space. The dangers and the hazards would be very minimal in this type of a craft. Joe will demonstrate the paraphernalia on the table in front of us.
As y'all can see, I got some fine people around me, and I appreciate all y'all coming, and I hope y'all can sense the magnitude of what you're going to see, because it's going to make space travel become a reality. I've been saying in the past that within 20 years, space travel will be as commonplace as getting on a plane flying from one city to the next. I guarantee it's going to happen a lot quicker than that. This technology that I'm going to show you is very simple. It looks very primitive. So did the Wright brothers' first flight look very primitive. And, of course, we enjoy the benefits of what their invention puts forth. I'd like to cover several things while I'm here. The U.S. Patent Office, I'm sure everyone's aware, is totally fighting this innovation. So is the U.S. government, National Bureau of Standards. I haven't had not one, not in 7 years, haven't had one government objective individual representing my government come to my home, listen to my technology. And this technology has taken me, at this time, 21 years to write. Now, I've put forth a unified field theory and mechanically explained gravity, electricity, magnetism, inertia, planetary motion, and a new source of energy with a gyroscopic particle. Not in the history of the world has any scientist ever put forth one. Not Einstein, not Faraday, not Maxwell, not anyone. Now, I have a lot of people in the scientific community who says, well, Joe, you're asking us to give up something. I'm not asking them to give up nothing, because they have nothing. They have no mechanical explanation. They can't explain gravity. They can't explain magnetism. They can't explain inertia or electricity. I can mechanically explain all of those things and have done so. Now, what I have had is better than 30 scientists, objective people, come to my home, listen to my technology. I don't mean blindly accept it. They listen to it, run their own test, put their reputations on the line, has signed affidavits that the invention worked. The Patent Office nominated a master, someone skilled in the art. A federal judge chose him, Thomas Penfield Jackson, saying he had no technical ability, he must have a master. Very quickly, the master gave these men the credit that they were due. He said the evidence is overwhelming that the invention works. There's no contradictory factual evidence. That the Patent Office had knowingly not followed the formalities of the patent law. The judge then threw it out, charged me $11,602.20 for the master, the person he said he must have because he had no technical ability. Now, the injustice here is not against Joe Newman. I mean, it's against Joe Newman, but that's really beside the point. The injustice is against the inhabitants of this nation who are the beneficiaries of this invention, because their actions have held it back. More than likely, this invention will be produced in another country before it will here in the United States. I'm already talking with some people in other countries about even particularly going to their country. Now, isn't it a heck of a note that I have people representing a government from other countries come, but not one official from your government has been to my home, listened to my technology, challenged me honestly, credibly. What they do is hide in secrecy, talk to news media behind my back, want to run secret tests, run no objectivity. And to give an idea of what the magnitude of this fight is about, and I'm fighting, I've already made a vow that I will not go to my own trial of my work, December the 8th, to set up by Thomas Penfield Jackson. My absence from that trial is to accent the absence of injustice in that judge's courtroom, because I wish to change the laws. And the way I'm going to do that is draw a line. And to give you an idea of what this is about, I say it's 20 years from now, 30 years from now, and any one of you are a young person, and you just got out of college, and let's say you get a brilliant idea, and you've seen all the changes that's going to occur from my years of work, and you see the benefits of it, and you're a young person, and you got the rest of your life in front of you, and you think, well, it's going to take me most of my young life, as it has taken Joe Newman most of his young life, to put forth this technology. Now, what if the same thing happens to me that happens to Joe Newman? I won't get one dime for my years of work. Question, would you pursue it? Not likely. Who suffers? The inhabitants of the nation and the world suffers. Let's look at another scenario. Let's say that Joe Newman holds this line. He causes the laws to change, puts ferocious teeth in the laws, so that if anybody tries to ever do this again, they would be gobbled up. And you know that. You're the same young person. And you know that you're going to be protected. Then, would you perceive and follow your brilliant idea? Odds are you would. Who benefits? The human race. That's what this fight is about. The thing I'd like to show y'all is that the National Bureau of Standards has consistently made a statement that if you built Joe Newman's device, because he doesn't use an iron core coupling like you use on a conventional motor, this conventional motor is on my right-hand side, that it would be highly inefficient when used simply as a conventional motor. They have said that several times. Just recently, an expert for the National Bureau of Standards sent to Senator Cochran's office a letter stating again the same thing, that he holds to the position. If Joe Newman builds his device strictly as a motor, it will be highly inefficient. Now, the scientific method is simple. You let the facts prove or disprove the theory. Now, this motor running over here on my right is drawing 7.4 watts. It draws 200 milliamps to run. Now, the scientific method teaches that the magnetic field comes from the current. Therefore, if you want more power, you use more current. And I think most of the people out here, just in your everyday life, you've observed that. If you see a little motor and you look at the current it draws, that's one thing. If you look at a bigger motor, it draws more current. If you look at a bigger motor, it draws more current. Now, I teach just the opposite. As I make my motors bigger, they draw less and less current. In fact, what I teach is that the magnetic field doesn't come from the current. It comes from the atoms of the conductor, of the material. Science teaches that the conductor is dormant. Now, I'll turn on my device. Y'all see what this device is doing. Now, what the National Bureau of Standards has consistently stated is that if I build my device strictly as a motor, it will be highly inefficient. Now, again, the scientific method is simple. You let the facts prove or disprove the theory. Now, if they're correct, then that this speed of this fan should be a lot less than the speed of this fan, and it should also be drawing more power, more current. Now, let me just run the device and see if that's true or not true. I think y'all can see for yourself there's a noticeable difference in the amount of air coming from this fan compared to that fan. This unit right here is drawing 1.5 milliamps. 1.5. You can almost spit 1.5 milliamps. It takes 1,000 milliamps to make 1 amp. That unit is drawing 200 milliamps. Now, if the scientific community is right, and if the magnetic field comes from the current, then how can that unit there be drawing approximately 75 times the current as this unit, and this unit is going to have more power than that unit? Cannot be, unless that the conventional teachings are false, and that what Joe Newman teaches is correct. And again, the scientific method is simple. I built this device afterwards. I think I just got a commentator problem here. Stop that real quick and fix it.
Makes a little difference when you got a contact and you don't. But as each of y'all can see, there's a world of difference between what this fan is doing and what that fan is doing. And we have a quote up there on the end there on one of those boards about the 1, 2, 3, 4th, 5th billboard down, quoting from a guy named Ravenel with the National Bureau of Standards, consistently stating, like I said, he recently, in the last 2 weeks, wrote a letter to Senator Cochran's office saying that if Joe Newman did this, he was positive it would be highly inefficient. And again, I asked the people to write to Senator Cochran asking him that he go ahead and introduce a bill into Congress because he was discussing possibly running another test. I have ran consistent tests, and this test here was proposed by the National Bureau of Standards, and again, it proves what they have done is involuntarily prove that the invention works, because what they have stated, by everything that they had known, they were still stressing it even 2 weeks ago, putting their reputation on the line. You build it as a conventional motor, it would not perform. It performed highly inefficient. And the scientific method is simple. You let the facts prove or disprove the theory. And the people... Yeah, the wattage on this one is, right now, is drawing about 3.5 watts. I've got 2,300 volts, but I have 1.5 milliamps. That unit there is drawing 37 volts, 200 milliamps, which is, again, showing that the technology that's presently taught is false and that Joe Newman's technology is correct, because that if the power comes from the current, then how can that unit draw 75 times more current than that unit, and the power is greater in that unit than that unit? Cannot be unless Joe Newman is right. How many of y'all believe I'm right? Let me hear. And the point that I'm making here is that it's something of tremendous significance, and everybody in America should be concerned about this, because I'm talking about ending pollution. There'll be no more Ethiopias. The work hour week in 10 to 15, 20 years will be 1 hour a week. You can mechanize and make available to people across the world all the material things they need. We have the ability right now to end pollution. We don't do so because the cost of energy is too high. Now, if you have an infinite source of energy, then you can take what would normally be pollutants, put electricity to it, you can break it into its basic elements, make useful products out of that, not throw it in the air, not throw it in the ground and in the water, that the children yet to be born would have to be penalized for. The magnitude of this is something that people should be outraged about, that is being stifled by the government. Now, I've got another technology. I've already applied for a patent on it, and I expect the same type of closed-mindedness prosecution from the U.S. Patent Office on the technology that I'm going to show here, because what it does is takes the technology I teach and I apply it to space travel. And there's one thing I'm good at, and that's mechanically putting things together. And I don't have to build something. I know something works before I even built it. As Emmett Pugh can tell you, I didn't build any of these motors until I applied for a patent. And my attorney told me, and he was very sincere, he's in a caring attitude, he said, "Joe, nobody's going to believe you unless you build one." And so I then built it after the fact. And that was one of the things that Dr. Hastings was impressed with when he came down. He said, "Joe, you followed the scientific method exactly. You came up with the technical process first, then you built it, and it worked exactly as you said it would." He said most discoveries have done the opposite, that they will accidentally discover something, and then they try to explain what the discovery was. He said, "You followed the scientific method exactly as it should be." He paid a lot of attention to that, yet my government does not. They don't give my work any credit. Even the National Bureau of Standards says we weren't asked to understand his technology. We just wanted to test the invention. What they did was ground it. And I have a statement still standing. I'll offer anybody $1,000 to let me take the machine that they had and hook it to it. And they stand in between it and the ground. It'll light them up like a Christmas tree. The thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this motor off, because the news media people have told me it kind of interferes with their device. There's one other thing. Besides what you see here, this unit has at least 10 times the current going back into the batteries than is coming out of the batteries. And again, that's supposed to be totally impossible by the conventional teachings. Now, by my teaching, it's not, because you're not creating anything. You're simply releasing energy that's been dormant The energy comes from the atoms of that conductor and from the atoms of that permanent magnet within that system. And the more that you use, the more energy you get out. And you could get 1 billion times, 1 jillion times more energy out than what you put into the system. But all your energy input is just a pure catalyst. And if y'all can't understand me, I think you can sense that if Joe Newman's right, we're talking about a phenomenal amount of energy that would be beneficial for the human race. I think that helps the news media people. The thing I'm going to get into now is that I'm going to demonstrate that I'll take electricity and run it through a conductor, and it's going to lift from the Earth's surface. Now, the lift won't be very much, but it's like Dr. Hastings recognizes, it doesn't have to be much. If you can lift something at all, it's like if I take a small helium balloon, size of your thumbnail. Now, it wouldn't lift very much. If I just showed you one helium balloon, you'd never saw one before in your life, never heard of one, you'd say, well, Joe, that can't lift very much. I'll say, now give me 1 zillion of these helium balloons, and I'll lift this building off the ground. That's exactly what this technology shows. If you can lift anything that'll lift from the Earth's surface, if it's miniature, you spread it out across a large area, and it'll lift a phenomenal amount of load. Not only will it lift itself, it's just like a spider making a web. The technology here is very much like a spider walking across water. I think if most of you are from Mississippi, you know what I'm talking about. If you watch a spider walk across the water, he'll bend his legs when he walks across the surface water. He distributes his pressure, and he'll walk right across that water and never submerge. Now, if you just cut his feet off and stuck him on that water, he would sink. The aspect of this technology is that the Earth's magnetic field is very weak in any one point, extremely weak. Now, you encompass a lot of the Earth's electromagnetic field, a tremendous area. Now, we don't have the technology to produce a magnetic field of the intensity of the magnitude of the Earth's electromagnetic field. We don't have the ability by conventional teachings to do so. Now, what this energy does is that you encompass a lot of that energy. Then it has a tremendous lifting capacity, because that the Earth's magnetic field is tremendously strong across a tremendous area. And I envision that space devices can be made so that you have a miniature world. Let's say you got a device that's 1,000 miles in diameter. And most people think, well, good gosh, Joe, that seems ridiculous. That's nothing. In space, that's like you taking a grain of salt and throwing it in the ocean. The vastness of space is so great, but what you could do with a 1,000-mile diameter, you could have a miniature world with trees and running water, utilizing this energy to pump that water that the trees are going to produce oxygen. The people in the animals are going to produce the carbon dioxide back for the trees. This is an experiment that was run in France back in the 1800s. Scientists did exactly that. Took a mouse and put it in a jar, put him some plants in there with it, closed it off. They both lived. The plants lived, and the mouse lived. Clearly demonstrating this way before his time, the magnitude of what this would do. And I might get Dr. Hastings to help me demonstrate this particular aspect. What I'm going to do first is 2 things. I'm going to put electrical energy in these wires, and when I put it one way, the one wire on one side is going to lift up. It's going to go at an angle and up. The other wire will go at an angle and down. If I reverse the direction of the current, it'll do exactly the opposite. Then what I'm going to do is take a 100-pound magnet and put it up under those wires, and I'm going to show something totally contrary to what's presently taught. It's presently taught, as you can look on that 3rd chart over there, it's taught that if you take electricity and run it through a wire in one direction, if the wire attracts to the magnet, and then you turn the magnet over 180 degrees, the wire would repel from the magnet. It's taught that both electrical charges and magnetism will do 2 things. It will attract and repel. The gravity was different, because it would only attract. It would always attract. Now, what I'm going to demonstrate is I'll take a 100-pound magnet and put it up here and show that that's not true. That what's presently taught is true under some given test, but it's not true under all tests. I will show a complete reversal of the gravitational effect. I'll put electricity in these wires and cause them to be repelled from that magnet, no matter which direction you put the electricity through the wire or which direction you turn the magnet upside down. Now what this clearly shows is that the space device will lift off the Earth's surface more readily at the Earth's north and south pole, because at that point the compass points straight down at the Earth's north and south magnetic poles. And the reason this happens is simple. I'll explain it to you. My gyroscopic action explains this before the fact. And I must admit, though, that I didn't follow my own technology. I was simply running some other tests when I observed this particular effect. In fact, because I was very familiar with conventional technology, it astounded me for a second. I've got a secretary, and she's heard me tell people that when I was a young man and saw Faraday's generator, I squirmed around. Next day, she said, "Mr. Newman, I want to tell you something." She said, "I saw you squirm yesterday." And she was right, she did, because it really astounded me what I saw, because I was very familiar with the conventional teachings, and it even shocked me. In fact, I went home, took a nap, let my mind relax, came back and said, "I'm going to sit down and figure this out." And as I wrote it out, I saw that my own technology predicted it beforehand. And what it is that when you have these lines of force coming out, these gyroscopic particles are spinning, their plane is parallel to the Earth as they spin this direction. Now, when you take this wire, and if you just put it in this magnetic field, keep it right in here. Don't let it extend across these curved lines of force, because then you'll see the conventional results. It'll attract one way and repel the next. But if you keep it right in the center, basically in the center of this, you put electric current through it one way, it'll repel, because these lines of force come around, but the gyroscopic particles are at right angles, so it makes their spin at right angles to the plane spin of these other gyroscopic particles. It's exactly like mechanical gears, not a bit of difference. The same mechanics, Newtonian laws apply. You take any gears and put them at right angles to one another, and you fix them where their teeth are going to hit, and you're going to have those teeth flying everywhere and the objects flying apart. That's exactly what I will demonstrate. But again, it clearly shows the technology that I teach is correct. It shows tremendous breakthroughs. The same technology that the National Bureau of Standards says that they hadn't been asked to understand, that no official from my government has ever bothered to come to my home to try to understand, but better than 30 other scientists have done so and put their reputation on the line. Another good example is Dr. Topers, who was at Yale University. Never met the man. He just read my book. A nuclear physicist, research physicist. Felt so strong about it, he wrote his congressman saying the tremendous beneficial changes it was going to have on the human race. And it should shake up everyone what I'm talking about, because I guarantee you the patent office and the government is going to tend to fight this same technology. What they will do, though, is take very brave people and put them on a liquid bomb and shoot them up in outer space, but they won't bother to come and listen to this or try to master this technology. What they will do is consistently try to fight it. And if could, I get Dr. Hastings to give me a hand. Roger, why don't you kind of get back here and explain. Now, this lift won't be a lot.
We also have a monitor up here, which we're going to try and show you in a detailed fashion if you're not close enough to see.
Now, it's like Dr. Hastings had said, if this moves at any amount, lifts at any amount, it's tremendously significant. Now, I won't be having extremely high amperage going through this. In fact, I only hit it about 100 milliamps goes into it, and it still lifts. And it goes in one direction. Can you see which ones that was going, Roger?
I think the ones out here are coming up, and the ones over here are coming down.
Sure. And they go at an angle. One goes down, the other one goes up. Okay. And then if I reverse this, I simply hit this switch here, I reverse the direction of the current, then they'll do opposite to one another. And they go...
The ones over here are going up, and the ones here are coming down.
Okay, it's very small, but even from that, as Dr. Hastings can tell you, he's already did calculations, and he is very sure from the mathematics. He's an expert. And let me just state this, he hadn't stated it, but he's an expert in the Earth's electromagnetic fields. He designed stuff at Sperry for the Navy and other people that it can't discuss, but it's a high sensitive electromagnetic detecting devices way beyond what any normal physicist would know. He knows all the aspects of the Earth's electromagnetic field, what it is at 1 mile, 10 miles, 50 miles, 100 miles, 1,000 miles, and 10,000 miles, and he knows it at every point on this Earth, and he can give it to you. So he's very familiar with what this technology can do. And again, I'll let him just tell you what he thinks about what this will do.
Okay, so here we've got some wires that are just barely perceptibly lifting. What we would envision is a lot of wires, maybe spaced every half centimeter or so, and very long. So perhaps a mile in length. It might wind up looking like a tennis racket with structural members going in one direction and wires going in the other direction. The point is that in order to support a payload, the payload can only be a certain fraction of the total weight of the wires. So the wires are very fine. You need to spread them out over a very large area, and then like the spider sitting at the center of his very delicate web, it'll support some weight. So the payload would presumably be right in the center of this tennis racket, and when the wires are energized, the whole unit would lift off. If they're energized with a constant current, it would just, the current were just right, it would just hover. If the current were more, it would go upwards and continue going upwards. If the current were less, it would go down. So by controlling the current in the wires, which would be pulse current and probably be produced by one of Mr. Newman's motors, by controlling that current, one could control the lift. A lot of practical details would have to be worked out. The mechanics, the mechanical engineering, the particulars of the electrical circuitry and so on.
Okay, let's run the test on the magnets. What I'd like to do now is take a magnet, put it up under here, and I'll show that the conventional technology that is taught is not true, because I'm going to put a magnet under here. Wait a minute, Roger, I'll give you a hand.
This magnet, Joe, I understand, will be demonstrating the effect if you had a lifting device at the north and south pole of the Earth itself.
Let's see, let's sit it down and move this ruler. Okay, I got it. I need a wooden dowel that I had. I need something to plug under here. Let me use the book. I had a wooden dowel that holds this magnet, but I'll use a book instead. Okay, and I don't mind telling you, like the secretary said, she saw me squirm when I saw this results, because I'm very familiar with conventional teachings, and I've ran these demonstrations over and over and over myself. And when I saw this, in fact, I'm very absent-minded about things that are not really important to me. In fact, I even doubted that I had turned the magnet over. I said, well, you fool, you just thought you turned the magnet over, you didn't. So I turned the magnet back over, and no matter what I did, I got a continuous repulsion from it. And that's when my secretary, she's right, she saw me mentally squirm around, because I was very curious, now how in the heck's that doing that? But I understand it from my own technology once I was forced to take a look at it. And as I demonstrate this, what you're going to see is the wires right over this magnet will be repelled no matter which direction I put current through here, or if I take this magnet, I painted one end green, the other end white, and if I turn the magnet over, it's still going to be repelled. The wires on this side, because they're out in the curved lines of force from this magnet, they'll do what the conventional art teaches. If I put the current in one direction, it'll go up. I put the current in the opposite direction, it'll go down. Or if I turn the magnet over 180 degrees, it'll reverse its process again, just as conventional art teaches, because it's over the curved lines of force. And then it's the mechanical gears that when these lines curve over, then these gyroscopic particles are just like gears. They mesh together. So then you get either a traction or you get a repulsion, exactly as conventional teachings teach. It's only when you restrict it and stay right in the close boundaries of the north or south pole that you'll get a consistent repulsion, the exact opposite of the observed effect of gravity. And I have consistently stated gravity is simply the unobvious effects of electromagnetic energy, and it can be mechanically understood and anticipated. And again, this is just further proof that what I teach is correct and what is presently taught is false. I got Dr. Hastings to kind of point out to y'all what's happening. You can see a noticeable rise on this unit right here, going in that direction. Now, if I reverse...
You're able to see this now. These wires are lifting. And the wires in the back are also lifting.
Those are lifting. I'm sorry, excuse me. Okay, am I out of the way?
Yeah. Okay, these are lifting, and the ones in the back are lifting also.
Okay, now I reverse the direction of the current. Those are going to go down. These are going to swing up in the opposite direction, but still be lifting. Those will be attracted down.
Okay, these are lifting, and the ones in the back are trying to go down.
Okay, now I'll turn the magnet over 180 degrees. Again, these still go up. Now these are going down. Now I'm going to reverse it. Those are going up. The ones over on the end also try to go up. Now what I'm showing here is a consistent repulsion. No matter which direction I put current through this conductor, it's repelled by a magnet. I turn the magnet over 180 degrees. The conductor is still repelled by the magnet. Now this will show you what the conventional arc teaches you. As soon as you get outside of the mechanical characteristics of the interaction of these gyroscopic particles that comes from the atoms of this material and comes from the atoms of this conductor, you get a totally different results. Now what y'all are seeing right here is totally challenged by scientific teachings. In fact, I get Mr. Lee Hamill. He had talked with several other PhDs around here in this area to get them to confirm what the conventional teachings teach. If you leave, you would just come on up and read these people's name. They're local people, but any of y'all can verify at any library, any college, any high school, that those conventional teachings there are correct. Dr. Hastings will tell you the same thing.
It's kind of a difficult time to find our physicists since we're right between schedules in college. We just finished summer school and just preparing for the fall semester. But I was able to find 4 PhDs in physics that looked at the scientists teaching, like the chart that you see down there. All of them looked at them and checked them and signed them and said, yes, that's the way we teach. This first one is by Dr. John Colonis, who's with ITD at the R&D Center. The next one is by Dr. Phil Kelly out in Belhaven. They merely look at these, they say, that's right, that's what we teach every day, and it's what science has been teaching for a long time. This is from Dr. David Durham. He's at Hines Junior College down in Raymond. He looked at it, checked it very closely. He said, this is right, this is what we teach every day. And this is about Dr. Dwight Payne, who's up, well, I don't want to say MSCW, but it's MUW in Columbus. And he also was very familiar with everything that's been taught, and he said, yes, that's exactly what we teach. And those are the 4 doctors that we've contacted, and all of them agreed that this is what science teaches today, as you see on the chart over here.
And in addition, Dr. Hastings, do you verify the same thing? Is this what's taught?
That's right. I'll verify that. Now, I would also say that I believe that this effect can be described by Maxwell's equations, but it's something that you would never think of because of the way things usually work. So Joe has discovered a phenomena here, which again you would not, Maxwell's equations don't tell you how to invent anything. Through his experimentation and with his gyroscopic particle theory, he has discovered this unusual phenomena.
Okay. Okay, I think that kind of covers it, but again, the main thing is I'm interested in is people writing their senators, both of them, Senator Stennis and Cochran, asking them to introduce bills to the Senate. We got 10 congressmen have done so. I'd like to see the first senator to be from the state of Mississippi, so I ask that the people write asking very strongly that they go ahead and introduce these bills, because there doesn't need to be any more tests ran. The tests have already been ran, and this test by the National Bureau of Standards they wanted to see has been done, and what they've done is endorsed the operability of my invention by the very test that they wanted to see. And even though y'all aren't skilled in the art, you see for yourself that not only did you get opposite results of what they predicted, you get extreme opposite results. I'll be glad to take any questions that anyone would like to ask. Gentleman standing up.
Mr. Newman, you often cite Faraday. It was his experience when he observed something, and he, as you observed here, to send a letter off to the Royal Society. Will you take this rather simple and startling observation and write it up and send it to the physics review as a letter?
No, because over the years I have consistently tried to do that very naively. I thought that I would get a responsible action. I've been trying to do that since 1967. In 1979, I quit writing out to the scientific community because I had gotten letters back from the major journals saying, as bad as it is, if you don't speak the scientist language, you can't communicate with them. And they say that mathematics is, and I say, no, it is not. Mathematics is simply a tool. It's a very exacting tool. The scientist language is how, why, and what. And if that wasn't true, I couldn't do what I've done. Faraday could not have done what he's done. He had a 7th grade education. What he had was how, why, and what.
Well, he also experienced rejection, but he kept trying, and he had a good deal of forgiveness. What I'm trying to do is to tell you that you have a startling demonstration here. It's a valid demonstration. It's very understandable. And it's true, you have been rejected by society. But there's no reason to widen the gulf between yourself and academia. I think that what
well, I'd be glad to send it.
Coming together.
No, I'd be glad to send it. I'm just saying what I do expect if I did it.
Well, will you send it?
Oh yeah, I'll send it, if you'd like me to, but I can tell you what I predict.
What I like you to do, all Americans would like you to.
But I just expect what they'll do, and I'll be glad to give it to the news media. When I get the response back, they'll say something to the effect, we don't wish your information is not suitable for publishing because you haven't applied the mathematical language, but I'll be glad to do that.
Pretty good profit. This is just observation. You don't have to give anybody.
I agree, but I'll be glad to do it and see what happens. Any other questions?
Any other questions?
What other governments have contacted you about your invention since you talked to other governments?
There were several governments. I don't think they wish me to give their names at this particular time. And I've been invited already to go to several different countries, corporations in the companies, in the different countries. And I do expect probably within a month and a half to be invited to a country, very high technical country, that they've already sent people representing, very high technical people, and they'll be carrying information back to their country. But I'm not, they've asked me not to give their names at this particular time. And I think it's very possible that this invention and this technology will go forward outside the United States before it will in the United States. And when it does, when I leave this country and go to somewhere else and start a manufacturing company, I think the people of Mississippi and I think the people of the nation are going to be outraged. And they're going to find that what I've said is true, that it's going to make Watergate appear as a molehill to a mountain, because this injustice is against the people of this nation. And I don't think people are stupid. Just like I say in the book I've written, I view you as a majestic sleeping lion, and I wish to awaken you. And I say that humbly. I have a lot of faith in the birthright of people of great curiosity and honesty, integrity. The teaching system makes it dormant, but it's still there, and people get facts. They awaken. That's why the jury system works so well, because I give you some facts, and you know they're facts. It'll touch you, and you'll start reacting to them. And I'm saying after all this is done, other news people and yourself, you're going to see that what Joe Newman has said, and he's consistently said, he's absolutely right. Now, if I can leave this country, and if I go to another country and set up and start manufacturing this unit, and this unit right here, it's ready to produce right now. It doesn't need anything but money. Now, Dr. Hastings will tell you, I got another device at my home that makes this unit as inefficient as this unit makes that device inefficient, and is ready to be applied to an automobile. All it needs is funds. Yet I don't get any from my government. I don't get any help. I do have to spend my money. I spend over $6,000 a month just on legal fees every month. And that's why I'm saying the people in Mississippi should write their senators and congressmen, tell them to get behind this, because I have to pay that expense every month because your government's trying to stifle this. Gentlemen, stand up.
You know, a lot of times manufacturers will manufacture something and just say patent pending on it. And with all the public disclosure you've got on this, if someone else did take your idea and try to manufacture it and have market it, looks like there'd be repercussions for those people in that patent.
No, you're right that there's a lot of protection in that very fact, that there has been a lot of news coverage on it, but I'm still saying that I know that business people with big money that I've talked with are still hesitant, because they're very concerned whether or not the patent is going to issue. And they are sensitive to the fact that the government is fighting this. They've made not one person from the government has been interested in coming forward and discuss my technology with me. And it's like Mr. Ralph Hartwell had said, electrical engineer of WLTV. He had written a response to the National Bureau of Standards, and he made a very sincere statement. He said, how can you honestly run tests on a new technology when you state you don't even study that technology? And he answers his own question. You cannot. And that's true. You can't judge someone if you say, I'm not even going to listen to your technology. I'm going to just judge you off of what I know, what's in my book, and whatever you're doing is wrong, and I'm going to confront you on that basis. No way that you can run an objective test.
You might also add why you grounded it that day and how they have copied that.
Okay, let me answer that question real quick. The National Bureau of Standards had said Joe Newman told us to ground it. Now, that's totally false. I did ground the machine that day, but I wasn't there to show them how to operate that machine. I was there because that these liars told me that the machine that I had sent up there in good evidence, in good faith, that it was not operable. So I had to travel 1,000 miles, quit what I was doing, important work for humanity, spend my money, go 1,000 miles to take one wire and hook it to a commutator a half of an inch. Now, I wasn't there to show them how to operate the machine. They asked me. I said, no. I said, run your own test. And what I did say is to take that book. I said, you have the opportunity to contribute to humanity. I said, read Dr. Hastings' affidavits and the other people who have tested it. It's all disclosed in the book. And they'll tell you exactly how to test it, and it will. But they didn't do that. Now, I grounded the machine because if I don't, the back charge into this system from that large device that I had will short these batteries out internally. Rayovac has consistently been working with me. These batteries I have here have been sent to me at Rayovac at no charge. They design them for me, 250-volt batteries. I have a lot of 9-volt batteries that they have sent me. They have sent down their chief chemist from Rayovac to see this. And he has verified on numerous occasions that we get more energy out of their battery than is even chemically in their battery. Now, isn't it interesting that the other people do this, yet my government won't do this? Now, they copied me and grounded the machine. But in the drawing, I show no ground. And it's common practice in engineering. If you have a ground, you show a ground. Now, if you don't show the ground, you have no ground. But they didn't want to understand that. And my point is that that has a bad effect upon business people, or this invention going forward, though, when somebody like the National Bureau of Standards makes these statements. Because what they do is they blatantly, the National Bureau of Standards and the Patent Office, blatantly lies because they're saying, we are who we say we are, so you're going to blindly believe whatever we tell you. They don't think that the people will look at the facts in the record. Now, everything I'm saying, I'm a scientist. I don't say anything I can't back up. Everything I have said, I have documented factually in the court record, in the Patent Office record, consistently, because I knew the magnitude of the injustice that I saw, and I know after the fact people are going to listen to me. And when I leave this country and go somewhere else, and the odds are I will, and build it and start companies, and I guarantee you from the time I get in that country, within 90 days, this thing will be mass produced. Let me just let Dr. Hastings tell you what he just saw at my home. And that the invention is ready to go forward, to put in an automobile, to put in anything. And you scale that up or scale it down and compete it against any motor, and it'll literally beat the dickens out of it and still put more energy back into the battery than comes out of the system.
The motor I saw on Monday night is runs at approximately the same speed as this motor, only it has much more torque. It had a 3/8" shaft, and I grabbed the shaft and tried to torque it down, and basically I couldn't stop the motor with my hand. I have experience with electric motors, efficient DC electric motors, and that type of performance would suggest to me somewhere between 100 and 200 watts. The motor was consuming 1.5 watts.
Okay, Dan, Evan asked me to say one other thing, and that was that the reason I had grounded it, see, like you see a bulb up here? I use that bulb to short out this coil because the back current of it is so great. If I didn't do that, it'll eventually short these batteries out internally, and Railvac has consistently verified that for me. Now, what I use up there on that big machine is 4-foot bulbs, fluorescent bulbs. Now, I didn't carry those bulbs with me. That's why I grounded the machine, because I didn't want the energy all shot back into these batteries. What it does, it just takes material and just like a little small wire through there. It just concentrates it and burns right through and shorts the batteries out internally. But the main thing my point is that while other competent people from other countries and even competent technical people in our own country come to my home and master my technology and put their reputation on the line, they deserve the greatest respect because they spoke out at a time when it wasn't a thing to do. It's easy for people to get on a bandwagon after the fact, but it takes some guts, like when Dr. Hastings, Milton Everett, and other people who came forward and spoke out about this before it was the thing to do. Those people deserve the respect. And it offends the hell out of me when the patent office is saying that these people are incompetent, that they don't know what they're doing, or either they have deliberately falsified the test. And when somebody suggests, even now, I don't care if it's a senator who, and he says, I want you to go run some more tests, he's saying they don't mean nothing. Their reputation don't mean nothing. That offends the hell out of me. Makes me angry, because I'm a fighter. And I know what's right, and I know what's wrong. And that's wrong. And it's, my major point and concern is, you let that happen here. And you imagine it's 20 years from now, and you invent something, they do the same thing to a person at that time. I can hear him saying, what are you complaining about? Look what Joe Newman accomplished. He let us do it to him. So what are you complaining about? Now, if I do the opposite, I draw a line on this and say, no, what you're doing is wrong, and change the laws, then that won't happen 20 years from now. Therefore, humanity benefits. It's just like the Constitution says. Congress will see to it that creativity is stimulated by which the inhabitants of this nation benefit therefrom. Y'all excuse my anger. It's not just for me. It's because I care about other people. Anybody who cares about children, if you care, you fight harder. Thank y'all very much.
Very well done, Joe.
Thank you.
They all laughed at Christopher Columbus when he said the world was round. They all laughed when Edison recorded sound. They all laughed at Wilbur and his brother when they said that man could fly. They told Marconi Wallace was a phony. It's the same old cry. They all laughed at Rockefeller Center. Now they're fighting to get in. They all laughed at Whitney and his cotton gin. They all laughed at Fulton and his steamboat Hershey.